Columbia is 3 years. It's great, but after about 8 years being a journalist, you start to get worn down. That's another thing. If some of these jobs are really 24/7, 7 days a week. When they sent me to Afghanistan, it was 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. We had this siege for like 2 days, so it was 19 hours of rockets hitting all around us. And then, ended back to 12-hour days all the time. And you're always on call. You get a call on Saturday morning. They set off, in Colombia, these guys set off a bomb near my house at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I was so not hungover at the time that I went there and to cover it. But so it's aware. You can't. How do you go out at night if you have to constantly checking your BlackBerry to see if the finance minister released some crappy statement? And that started to wear on me. And I thought, that coupled with the kind of I don't feel bad saying psychological toll, but the kind of weariness emotionally that you get sometimes, and I wasn't really dealing with it very well. All those things kind of came together, and my dad got ill, and I thought, I should come back to the U.S. I've been, more than 7 years away. I feel like a bad son, a bad friend, so it's time to move back. And I know I want to get out of journalism. I know I want to do something else, but in the international relations field. So I just started searching around for jobs. And never in a million years would I have thought I'd come to Iowa. I mean, there was no possible reason that I could ever fathom before this job that I would ever even come here for a visit unless, my plane got grounded. But I come from a small town in North Carolina, so the whole idea of a small town actually sounded nice, a place to kind of step back, normal hours, normal job. I travel a lot. I've traveled like 70,000 miles this year, so that's like 12 countries. So it has that aspect. It has a couple other things, writing, editing stuff that I like. It seemed like a good job. There are a couple things I didn't like, but with every job, as you'll find out, that's the way it goes.
Can I pause here and create a cliffhanger?
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, did I speak for a long time?
Well, you have such an extensive history and so many stories to share with us, and I was just riveted. So we're going to pause there, though, and pick up with the Stanley Foundation after Sarah's portion, so we can hear more about what you're currently doing. But we do have a third guest that I'd like to introduce, Sara Maduka, who has been the Regional Director for Proteus Incorporated here in Eastern Iowa since 2008. Over the past 5 years, she has worked to fulfill the organization's dual missions of providing healthcare and job training services to farm workers in the region's 32 counties. Sara directs the Migrant Health Program and National Farm Worker Jobs Program in the area, providing needed services to seasonal and migrant farm workers and their families. Sara graduated from the University of Northern Iowa in 2008 with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication and minors in Spanish and Journalism. She says the best part about working at Proteus is serving a population that is so often invisible but so crucial to our economy, our health, and our community. Please welcome Sara.
I don't think mine's going to be as interesting as traveling through Africa and going to Baghdad and all kinds of things, but I'm going to try. I have a quick question. Has anybody here ever worked on a farm? I'm in Iowa, so I hope I see a few friends. Awesome. Like maybe some detasseling or baling hay or something like that? Great. So we serve folks who do that for their livelihood. That's what Proteus does. Our organization has been around for over 30 years. And we do two main things, and I'm going to speak today about one of those things, which is our health program. We have a federally funded community health center that provides basic healthcare services to migrant and seasonal farm workers and their families. So a day in the life of our migrant health program is to load up our van with a bunch of medical supplies, including like nurse bags, lab testing equipment, privacy screens, patient charts, stethoscopes, medicine, and we travel out to the farm worker work sites, which exist in Eastern Iowa, and we set up a health clinic that looks kind of like a mobile blood drive that you guys might have participated in high school or here at college. And then we provide basic health care to those farm workers, And then we load up the van and we go home. And we provide follow-up care when we get back to the office. So that's kind of the health program in a nutshell. You're very lucky today to have one of those health workers in the room with you. Myra worked with us this past summer as one of our health aides, and she did a great job. So she knows all about how that works. The way that my job works as regional director of Proteus is that I'm a manager. So I tell people what to do. No, that's not all I do. I oversee our 32-county region in eastern Iowa, from Postville and Decorah all the way down to like Keokuk, Muscatine, Ottumwa, other towns in between. And I supervise about 8 staff members and oversee the grants in our region. We have 2 fairly large federal grants in eastern Iowa. I'm also in charge of developing community partnerships to make sure that we are promoted in the community, people know who we are. If people come across migrant and seasonal farm workers, they know that they can send them to us and we can help them find services. I'm also in charge of communications, so I have to write a newsletter, work on our website, do our Facebook page, and then I report to the CEO and the board of directors. I'm in charge of the budget for our region, and then I manage those health clinics, which is one of my favorite parts of my job. It's pretty fun. Another part of Proteus is that we have an employment and training program. And there's another Proteus employee in the room who works in that program, and she helps with helping people who've done farm work and aren't making ends meet, because farm work is physically grueling, pays really poorly, it's not reliable, so sometimes people will work for 2 months in the summer and then a few weeks in the corn sort in the fall, and then they're unemployed for 6 months, and then maybe they'll try and do something in the spring. So it's not reliable employment. There are no benefits. There's no 401k if you're a farm worker. And then it doesn't have unemployment insurance often as well. Anyway, so we take folks who've done that kind of work and maybe are interested in getting reliable work instead, and we'll help put them through some training programs and then help them find a job so that they can have a better income and start a career. One of the questions that I was supposed to answer is how to become a regional director. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I graduated from UNI at 22 and got hired as the regional director at the age of 22. And I have asked my interviewers many times, why did you hire me at the age of 22 to do these things? And they say that it's because I had a bachelor's, which was good. I spoke some Spanish, which was good with the population that we serve. We don't only serve Latinos, but a lot of the folks that we serve are Spanish speakers. And I had a work history that showed some experience with leadership. I had been an RA. I know that doesn't sound very exciting. I'd been an RA for 3 years, and had therefore really worked on my communication skills, planning skills, and my ability to kind of herd cats. And that has been helpful in my job at Proteus. But I've also just plain learned a lot while I've worked there. So that's kind of how to potentially become a regional director. Most of the other regional directors at Proteus have some management experience. Some of them even have master's degrees, so it varies. Now, if a person wanted to work at an organization like Proteus, where we're serving farm workers or where you're serving underserved populations, the way to do that would be to probably get your bachelor's, have a lot of experience that you can show us on your resume and cover letter and during your interview, experience working, experience volunteering. Some study abroad is good if you need to prove that you can speak another language. That's a really good way to kind of show that you can speak another language. But for what I'm looking for when I'm hiring somebody is definitely experience. So take all the classes you want and everything. Education experience is great, but I like to see a lot of work experience as well. I like to see that you've learned what it's like to work in a professional environment, and that you're going to be perseverant and really stick through tough days when you have weird assignments, and you're going to be able to be stubborn and get your job done. So that's really important for me when I'm hiring folks. And I did want to just speak for 1 second about when you're doing your job, the job search itself. Carmen has been really helpful and has sent out job openings that Proteus has to you guys many, many times. And I've gotten so many wonderful candidates, and I've hired a lot of folks from the people that Carmen has been so kind to connect me with. But I do have 3 tips I'd like to throw out there, especially for you guys who are graduating in December or May or whatever. The first thing is to always be professional. From the second you're communicating with an employer, you have to act as though you are interviewing the entire time. So email correspondence should be beautiful. It should be pristine. It should be edited. Have your roommate read over it. There should not be typos in any email that a potential employer receives. They also need to be professional in that they're well written. So, you know, an email that's like, hey Sarah, tell me more about the job, is not the best first impression. You know, it should be written out a little bit more. So that's really important. And if you're going to call an office and ask questions about the job, that's great. Be professional when you're doing that. If you're going to stop in and ask for more information, don't wear sweatpants. You know, be professional the whole time. The other thing is be prepared. Don't wing an interview. You know, prepare for it ahead of time. Look into what the company is all about so that you can answer questions about the company and ask questions about it. One of my pet peeves during interviews, and I feel like I do a lot, is when people don't have questions for me at the end. You know, I want you to, you probably are a little curious about my company if you're thinking about working here, so ask me something. Also be prepared for those cliched, trite questions that employers still ask. You're going to be asked probably at some point what your biggest weakness is. Don't look at me with a blank face because you probably have something, right? Like we all do, you know? So plan for the questions that you're going to get. And be sure that you have individualized your resume and your cover letter for each employer. And be careful how you title those when you send them as an attachment. These are things that just to think about. But I would say for being prepared, the best thing that you can do is follow Amanda's instructions from earlier and go to the Career Center. You need to practice interviewing. You need to be prepared. Have someone look over your resume. Have someone look over your cover letters, and then you'll be really set then. And then the last thing is just to be confident. An interview is maybe, I think, like one of the only chances in your entire life when you really get to brag about yourself, and you need to do that. You know, so often people are so humble and everything. Don't be humble in your interview. Be honest about the great stuff that you've done, because the only way I, as an employer, am going to know that is if you tell me. Don't assume that I read it on your resume, because I might not have read the whole thing. You need to tell me the great stuff that you've done, because that's what I want to hear about during an interview. Okay? That's all from Sarah.
Well, thank you.